Mm. And well, thank you and welcome everybody. We have Mike Miranda here today. Michael is one of our alumni who actually graduated recently. His graduation was not all this last week's. Um, he actually graduated like 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Mike, please. Please introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit more about you, and then we are going to go ahead and start with the interview.
Perfect. So like Jen was saying, I'm Mike Miranda. I'm alumni of cohort 135 with Sabio. Um, Medical industry, where I did a few different roles: phlebotomy, CNA, caregiving, things like that. And finally, a fellow veteran actually pushed me into telling me about vet tech and how he went through it with a different industry and was able to actually change his life too. And he saw my potential and just pushed me right towards vet tech. And that's how I actually ended up hearing about Sabio, which I think actually covers the next question too. About how I actually found it was vet tech gives you like a whole list of different service providers for what you want to do. And looking at the full program, I called over half the list. I spoke with representatives with Sabio as well. And Sabio ultimately was my decision out of the entire list based off of, the interaction with the staff, the full details of the program, and started as a candidate back in May of last year and graduated February 9th of this year.
Awesome, perfect. Yes, you actually covered the next question, but I would like to go deeper into what you just said. By the way, it was cutting off a little bit at the beginning, so we just heard until a friend of in the healthcare industry on. Okay, so if you would like to repeat anything in the first part that we didn't get to hear.
Oh, yeah. So basically, what I was saying is a friend of mine, a fellow veteran, was the one that actually introed me to vet tech, how to sign up, how to apply, showed me the website where I could actually see the full list of different programs available for that vet tech. And I just went through that entire list and started making calls, inquiring about the different programs, what potential jobs you could get after, and just basically went from there.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for repeating that. Okay, so I would like to understand if you went through this 13 weeks program or the 17 weeks program. I think it was the 17, right? Your full stack.
Yeah, mine was actually the full 17 weeks. So I didn't test out of any of the pre-work. I started as a candidate, like I had mentioned last May, kind of gained access to the materials. I was still working, full time. Um, Dove into that a little bit and then actually started the 17-week program October 2nd. And obviously, that's when we really dive into a full boot camp in terms of all of the curriculum day by day.
Mm, definitely. Tell us more about that boot camp experience. How was
But
everything in Sabio?
the boot camp experience with Sabio was relatively similar to that of military boot camp. It's very structured. You have a timeline in terms of things that you have to accomplish by a certain time. I mean, but at the same time, with that progression and that timeline, they're always there to support you along the way. Just like Jen just put it in the in session channel here, ask questions. That will be your lifesaver through this boot camp.
Definitely. I agree with that. Perfect. So let's go ahead and jump to the job search process. So when did you begin the job search? Um, and how did you feel studying in the job search? Like, what were your thoughts at that time?
Started 2 weeks before graduating. That's when the senior developers actually kind of give you that green light to actually start applying. At first, it was definitely nerve-wracking seeing some of the job descriptions that they were requiring. I mean, you'll come across it where, oh, they're advertising for like entry level, but they want 12 years of experience. That's not really entry level, but it's one of those that you're going to end up facing it. So definitely it was daunting at first, but the sooner you can overcome rejection, the quicker you'll actually set yourself up for success. You're muted, Jen.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you. So, how many resumes did you send out before you received an offer? And how long was the job search for you?
Total number of applications, let me actually pull that up, was 2,935 applications. The entire duration of my job search before I actually accepted this position was just shy of 2 months. This one was actually the third interview I had. And it actually happened because I had a family emergency at the time, so I had to fly out of state. But I made sure to take my tablet, still connected to all these different job boards. I was still sending resumes out. And that's actually the job that I just accepted was one that I sent out during that off of my tablet. And it was one of those, I applied within 48 hours. He was reaching out, requesting an interview. And within an hour of his email requesting that, I immediately responded saying, hey, I have availability on these days. Just let me know what works best for you and we can set this up. And after meeting with him, he flat out told me I was the only one that responded within a 24-hour time frame for him being the job poster on ZipRecruiter before his message actually expired to where he couldn't see those messages anymore.
Amazing. So, ZipRecruiter,
Mhm.
Awesome. I love to hear that because, like the most common job board, as I have always said, it's been LinkedIn. So it's amazing to hear that there are other job boards that actually help you get a job very fast within 24 hours. That's amazing. Um, and so how many interviews did you get throughout this process? You sent uh the response and then they interviewed you, you were on the tablet, and how many interviews happened after that?
So total number of interviews, I had 13 total interviews. All of those were virtual. This one that progressed to an offer, first stage was virtual interview, second stage was in person with the same person. And then the third was actually with the managing partner of the company as well as the founder. And then that was also in person here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it was by the end of that in-person interview, I had an offer letter in my email.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Let's go ahead and speak about the hardest part of the job search. Okay, so how did you overcome interviews where you were asked questions or technical skills or years of experience that you just don't have yet?
Yeah, so that's one thing I made it a personal goal at the end of every interview, whether I felt it went good, bad, indifferent, is I always ask the interviewer of, okay, if I was your best choice or if I was not your best choice, what are areas I can improve on? And I would take notes based off of their feedback. So that way I could take that feedback to the next interview and knock that one out of the park.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that helps you be better for the next interview. And how did you keep yourself motivated?
My family, realistically, it's one of those of I started Sabio to provide a better life for me and my wife. So knowing that by the end of this, I was going to be in that position is what kept me motivated every day.
Okay. How did you deal with rejections?
Gmail filters. So anything that came in with, unfortunately, we have chosen to pursue other candidates, you're not moving forward. Any of those, I had it preset before I even started the job search to where it would automatically filter into a rejection email. So personally, I never actually read any of those rejections. I just had it set up prior to where I never had to deal with those rejection emails.
Awesome. Good idea. Um, okay. So now let's go ahead and speak about this position where you are right now. Um, After the interview that happened in person, that you already received an offer letter right away, did you have to negotiate, or you were just okay with what they were offering and what the job was?
So that one, it was actually a little interesting because the first in-person interview, the founder actually brought up what my salary expectations were. And my response to that was, well, it's advertised between 55 and 80,000 a year. And his exact words were, anything in that range would be an insult to your skills based on how you just interviewed. So what's it actually going to take?
Mm-hmm.
So being a little arrogant, but yet confident, just like is instilled throughout the entire boot camp, you know, you need that confidence talking about code. I threw 130 at it just to see what his reaction would be. And he countered with 103, in which my final rebuttal to that was 110 with a base of 105 and a 5,000 incentive bonus upon delivery of our first project. So it incentivizes me to really show what I'm capable of. And they took that one and ran with it.
Awesome, awesome. That's really good. Mike, let me ask you something, and maybe this was not like in the interview questions I sent you, but um like people sometimes they are afraid of shooting a high number because they think they will lose the opportunity, right? And that may happen, that's natural. So what would be your advice when this happens? Because having the experience of what the manager told you, it's like, okay, so maybe I was afraid for nothing. I should a bigger number or something like that. So what would be your advice on this?
In that type of situation, unless you're like really reading the body language, the whole psychology behind the interview, it's one of those you have to be willing to walk away from the interview without an offer. So that's something before I even threw that number back at him, I was ready to just continue the job search, continue sending out all those resumes. And then by the end of the conversation, which we had scheduled, that interview was supposed to be 45 minutes. Well, 3 hours later, and we were still interviewing in person at that time. That's when I knew, was pretty confident that I was going to progress to a third stage. And 36 hours after that interview is when I got the final from the managing partner saying, hey, I'd like to meet you based off of what I've heard. So met them, and then it just progressed that way. So at the end of the day, it's one of those, if you got to have that confidence, but if you throw that high number out there, just be ready to not get an offer and just continue pushing through those job applications.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Um, okay, so going back to the job search, was this position remote? Is it hybrid? Is it on-site?
Or kind of froze.
Mm, I'm sorry, Mike, you're frozen. Did you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you
Okay,
now.
okay.
Perfect. I'm sorry about that. I was asking you if the position is hybrid, remote, or on-site.
So the position is actually classed as a hybrid with 1 day on site, and the rest of the week I get to actually work from home. So it's actually kind of nice. The on site, it's only about an hour away from my house, so less than 100-mile radius from the house. And the manager of our team is actually willing to accommodate the three of us on the team. We're all in different areas within the Phoenix area. So each on site for a week, One will be in Scottsdale, one will be in Phoenix, one will be closer to me, and he just keeps rotating it to accommodate every member of the team.
Well, that's good. It's good organized. So do you think that like the methodology that we implement at Sabio, that is the agile methodology, doing stand-ups, doing code reviews, code talks, all of those things, actually helped you um for this hybrid model of working?
Oh, 100%. Actually, the stand-ups, um, discussing it with this team, I brought it up about daily stand-ups just so that way we could keep track of the project we're currently working on daily, because obviously we're all incentivized about having 6 weeks to produce an entire functioning project. So that's actually, we actually implemented a full daily stand up by 9 a.m. Each of us have to post something. This is what I did yesterday, just like it was at Sabio. This is what I did yesterday. This is what I plan to do today. And what blockers are we facing? If any of us see any blockers to each other and start helping to debug or figure out what that blocker is and overcome it immediately.
Mhm. All right, perfect. And what was your time block schedule like while you were in the job search? Because we need to have time for studying, to job applying, to making money on the other side if possible, to a lot of things going on after we graduate the program. So how did you block your time, blocked your schedule to make sure that you were having time to do all of these things?
Well, I was actually in a kind of unique position because my wife's job actually allowed for full financial security up until the point I actually secured a position. So I didn't have to worry case was. So my entire 8 to 12 hours a day, I was able to dedicate to solely finding a position within the tech industry immediately after graduation.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Perfect. I'm going to jump to the field of advice question, and then I'm going to let everyone ask questions to Mike. Um, Raising your hands, please. So, Mike, what is one advice that you would give yourself now if you knew what you needed to do to get where you are right now when you first studied at Sabio?
When I first started at Sabio, and I would classify that as my candidate days before cohort, I would actually have told myself to actually dig further into the pre-work courses, not just because it gave you an edge up, but it allowed for it because we had a couple in my cohort that had worked ahead and had completed that. It opened their doors to where they actually got more exercises to practice on, more exposure to all of the materials. So that would have been my advice to myself is just knock it out before cohort because that gives you 4 weeks worth of comfort space to where you can just continuously receive more and more information about a full stack developer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, those resources are there for a reason, so it's definitely pretty good that if you can take the time to actually use all the resources that Sabio provides. All of them are helpful. And then what is one advice that you would like to give to the Sabio cohorts as they are running through the program right now? As you know, during this call, we have people from all our current cohorts. Our youngest cohort is 141. And we just keep going. So what would be your advice for them?
The two bits of advice I would definitely give to everyone out there is daily be on the queue, whether it's a code review to work, because that builds your confidence talking about code, clarifying anything that you're even remotely confused about, because those technical questions will catch you during the interview process. Managers and things like that will see it if you're not asking those questions while you have access to those resources. And then the other one is it was a tool that was actually introduced the last 2 weeks of my cohort, which was that interviewing tool with AI. Use it because there was half of my interviews to even talk to someone was the exact same setup where you had a question, you'd record your answer, AI would grade it, and then move on to the next. So half of the interviews I got was because of the exact same platform and setup with that interview training tool. So use it.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, guys, so I am going to let you start asking questions to Mike. Please raise your hand and let's go ahead and ask questions. Orin, thank you very much for that first hand. Go ahead with the question.
Hi Jennifer, hi Mike. Hey, what's up? I was from Mike's cohort. I'm super excited to see how you've been doing, and just catching up with you and like a few other of my cohort members who also got a job recently. So that's like really awesome to hear. And I guess my question was like, when you said you were able to dedicate all your time solely on getting a job post graduation, did you mean specifically just applications, or were you doing like studying and stuff, or were you working on any other coding projects, or you just used like your Rumbap experience and then just did nonstop applying?
So half the day, so typically the first 4 hours of my morning, I would use for nothing but job applying. Send out those resumes, find new positions. I take obviously a lunch, kind of refresh the brain a little bit. And then the afternoon, I would spend, whether if I didn't hit my personal goal for those daily marks on resumes, I would finish out that personal goal or that mark. And then I would transition to things like the leak code algo problems, started building out, different projects just to test out different like React hooks or whatever the case was, just to keep on edge with all of the skills. Because it's just like riding a bike. I mean, it doesn't take much to get back into it, but it's easy to fall out of the skills that you develop through cohort.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and congratulations again.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Orin. Let's go ahead with the next question, guys. Elias, go ahead, please.
Hey, Mike. I am also part of cohort 135, so it is very cool to, like see us strive and just pursuing these career goals. So yeah, I am very happy for you. I just want to say like congratulations for this awesome milestone that you hit. For my question is, what were like the most like difficult questions I was being asked during your interview process?
Some of the most difficult was actually the algorithm problems that I hadn't come across yet. So, I mean, I had one that it was the FizzBuzz, which if you haven't come across that yet in cohort, you definitely will once you're in product. Those of us like Elias, Oren, we definitely know what FizzBuzz is as we were tested on that. So that would be some more advice is, just go to like Leak Code or some hacker rank and just work on some of these problems in your spare time, because that'll definitely help throughout the interview process as well. But yeah, that was like the only hiccup through my interview process was just a algo problem that I had never come across and was completely stumped from the word go.
Okay. And one more follow-up question. So from like the skills that we learned here at Sabio, do you think that it applied to what you're doing now? Like, does everything like seem tied together?
For the most part, yes. I would say it was more the fact that I actually utilized a lot of screenshots from what I developed in product
Yeah.
for that final interview to really give a visual, because the managing partner for this company, and I was told this ahead of time, he's not tech savvy whatsoever. He barely knows how to turn his own computer on every morning. That's like how tech savvy he is.
Okay.
So a lot of visuals. I took screenshots of like the dashboard I was creating, and within 10 minutes, he's telling me, he's like, that's what we need built. How long would it take you to do it? I'm like,
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
yeah. So it's one of those of, I showed him the full stack that we learned in cohort, with React, JavaScript, C#.net, and then SQL for the backend. And these other developers, because of the route we're actually going with it, we're actually building a RAG app, which actually implements AI to do a lot of data querying and things like that of all these data packs that we're getting.
Yeah.
So it's just learning some new technologies, but a lot of the foundation of React and C# I'm still using with what we're currently building from scratch.
Oh, dang. Awesome, man. Yeah. Thank you for that. And again, congratulations. Awesome, man. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, man. Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. How about our current cohorts? Don't be shy, guys. Alisa, go ahead with the question.
Hello, I'm part of cohort 140. Thank you for your story. It's very inspiring. Definitely congratulations on your success. My question is short. To you as to graduate student, what part of studies or courses or tasks in Sabio do you think have been the most sorry, have been the most beneficial for your career right now? And you will look back, what would you focus more during your studies so it will help you more in your career right now?
So the two parts of that. So the first part, I would focus honestly on everything in cohort because that's actually been what my full title is actually a full stack developer. So I'm touching the front end, middleware, and back end, whether or not it's with the stack that's being taught at Sabio. It's a little different, but it's still the same concept. You have to know all three aspects of development in order to do that. So to answer both parts 1 and 2, I would focus your studies on everything. So when you get introduced, so 141, what part of the curriculum are you in right now? Is that still within pre-work web development, or have you guys moved on to React?
I'm from 140 and we just started React a couple days ago.
Okay, so to tack onto that is with every different introduction to a new language, ask questions. If you don't feel like you're bugging the instructors by the end of every day, you're not asking enough questions. That was me. I was constantly blowing up all of the instructors, especially on like weekends when I'm sitting there trying to code something, whether it be for product or getting ready for an assessment. It was one of those, if I wasn't sure on a weekend, if I saw an instructor on, you bet through Slack, I'm blowing up their messages. Hey, can you spare 5 minutes? I have a question. So always ask questions, always be on the queue with every new language that you're doing. And then as you get closer to product, you definitely want to make sure and circle back to like your CSS that we spend like 3 days on in cohort, because you're definitely going to use a lot of that throughout product.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for that question. Biden, go ahead with the question.
There we go. Hi, first of all, congrats on getting a job, especially the job you wanted, which is great in the salary range. My question is, my cohort, we are graduating in a couple weeks, about 3 weeks now. So we're coming towards the end of product. And that's the first I've actually heard that there's AI interviews that come before the actual interviews. I haven't heard that before. So this is kind of a two-part question, maybe borderline 3. Things that you weren't expecting during the interview process like that, were there any surprises, different techniques or something similar to that AI interview where you weren't expecting that to come, that my cohort can prepare for, in that kind of a sense, because I think you are one of the newer, you're one of the guys from the most recent cohorts, I think, and probably closer to the interview process that we're going to be going through.
So overall, I can't think of anything that was real surprising. The senior devs with especially end products, so you're probably still working with like Nicholas, Selva, Patricio, I think is now in product with you guys. All of them pick their brains. If you have questions, whether about, hey, can we do a quick mock interview? If they've got a quick 5 minutes, they'll throw a couple questions at you, just grade what your responses are and give you that feedback through product. So definitely utilize those resources in terms of like, because one question I asked was, what would you evaluate or what level of a compensation should you say I shouldn't accept anything lower than this based on what you've seen me perform throughout product? And, they'll give you honest feedback in terms of, I've seen this as a strength, this is a strength, this you could probably improve on. So based on all of that, and they would give you a number based on what their perception of what your skills are. So definitely keep that in mind. And that's actually something I utilized with this interview was I had that number in mind. So when he immediately threw it out, if that was going to be an insult to my skills, of which he did say that the amount of confidence just discussing code. So your code reviews definitely come in handy, whether it's with an instructor or with your cohort members. Talk code day in, day out, that builds your confidence. So when he came back and said that's an insult, I immediately knew I had this position. I just couldn't be too arrogant with a number I threw back at him. That's why I threw the 130 and we kind of negotiated a little bit back and forth and then finally settled on a number I was comfortable with that was actually 25,000 over what the senior instructor at my graduation had suggested.
And going damn, I forgot my question. The question damn, it just slipped my mind. Oh, that's it. So the code reviews, how were those set up during the interview process? Was that pulling up your Git and then going through code reviews? Is that you mentioned screenshots? Did they need to see any running code? Like if we bring up a functioning, some of the functioning apps that we've made before, those dashboard with whether it be product, whether it be friends, whether it be any other components we've been working on UI wise or SQL or like .NET, whatever we've been working on, how did that code review process happen? Was it more so you pulling up your Git, or was it more just sharing the screen on the code, or did they want to see the functionality of it too?
So that one, and which once you get to the point of sending out applications and stuff like that, which it sounds like your cohort is close to, you're going to be given access to a lot of videos that you'll see Gregorio talk about. If they open the door for you to talk about code, they're relinquishing control of that interview to you. Run with it. So at that point, what happened with me is he wanted an example of what I had done. So, okay, now this is my interview. This is no longer your interview. I threw my screen up. I had VS Code up and running. I had Visual Studio already up and running, and I walked him through everything of the entire dashboard that I created, all the different components, how they were tied together. And the question, that was only the second question of the interview. And then it turned into, I took control of the entire interview for over 30 minutes because he let me talk about code.
Amazing.
So if you get that opportunity, seize it, run with it, show them what you're capable of. Especially, you mentioned .NET, any projects that you've worked on personally, that shows your versatility in terms of, hey, not only can I do this, I can collab with a team. This is a project I worked on with a team and built out this product. Whatever the case is, seize that opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate the
Of
words.
course.
Best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you, Byron. Who else does have any other question for Mike, please?
I got a question.
First, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question to you is, I know you were saying that that something that you were doing was just basically studying your leak code and whatnot. I wanted to kind of go in a little bit deeper on that. Like, what exactly were you doing besides the technical questions, besides maybe writing down code? Were like, are you going deeper into like maybe studying all the keywords, maybe doing technical interviews? Like, what specifically are you doing that may have enhanced your interview skills?
With this process for me, what I think actually enhanced it is I was doing a lot of those like algo problems on the side, just keeping up, those problem solving skills. But I was also looking at, long term, where do I want to go with my career? And I had two distinct paths selected, and that was either diving into AI, which is the position I just landed, or mobile application development. And not knowing which position I was going to get first, I actually started doing research in terms of like what are the more popular languages today and moving and kind of looking at numbers moving over like the next 4 or 5 years in terms of mobile application development. So when it came time to interview for this position, the founder started telling me different things about this MVP, what he would like to see. I started immediately telling him, I'm like, okay, well, we could run with this, we could do this, XYZ. I'm like, and also, by the way, I'm like, in the future, I'm like, we could also turn this into a mobile application because I had already done the research on those languages. I immediately started telling him, I'm like, hey, we could use this language, and this language, and we could actually build it to where some of these larger companies can send us a data request for a query right from the palm of their hand because everyone has a smartphone nowadays. And that was, I think, was a real big selling point is I was already looking at the future and how to increase not only our income, but make it easier for our clients as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Sabio, go ahead with the question.
Hello. I want to dive in more into your thing. You said you got an AI-based job. From my understanding, I could be wrong. From my understanding, AI uses a lot of Python code. That's what I've heard at least. And I know Python isn't something we learn in the boot camp. So are you learning like new languages just for your new job, or was that an issue for you?
Yeah, I'm actually learning a lot of different newer languages. One of the developers on the team, he's got like 12 years of experience. So he actually kind of took on more like the senior developer role for the team. So I'm learning things like Express.js, where you can actually write all of your APIs through the front end, but it replaces your middle tier. AWS Cognito, Terraform. There's a lot of different technologies that I'm having to learn on the fly. But this senior developer is actually taking the time. He's sending me documentation, video tutorials, everything that I'm able to sit here and review, work through it, just like some of the videos with Sabio, where it's kind of like a code along with Gregorio. Just don't forget the so sad because no one ever does. But you get through that and they're patient knowing that I'm brand new to the industry, but they already see the potential because within 3 days of starting this project, I was the first on the entire team to actually send up 2 merge requests that were merged immediately in these new languages that I had just started. So it's one of those, you've got to have that self-motivation to learn, but also rely and fall back on the foundation that you learned here.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Is that okay?
Mhm.
So during the interview process, where they obviously knew you didn't know all the language you need to know for their job they want you to do, was that brought up during the interview? And how would you sell yourself so that even though I don't know these languages, I'm willing to learn them, I'm a quick learner. Like, how would you sell yourself to be able to get the job despite not knowing everything they want you to know?
So for this position, it was actually a kind of unique one because each of the 3 of us were given full autonomy to determine, okay, this is the concept that we're looking at. You present us with the idea of what tech stack you actually want to use and how it would potentially look. So we were given full rights, didn't matter what we wanted to use, as long as we could explain it to this managing partner of, I want to use React for front end, I want to use C# for middle, or whatever the case was. We just had to be confident with it. And then as a group, as an entire team, that's where we collaboratively come together and determine that, okay, for our front end, Next.js is going to be our best option with Express.js. So that way we can write these APIs and avoid the middleware just to get this first 6-week project out. We're already looking at potentially implementing something like a C# middleware down the line just to make it more secure. But with this one being given the option to really architect the entire project by yourself, allowed me to demonstrate where all the strengths from Sabio with that full stack, but also elaborate that, hey, I'm new, I may not know some of the languages, but I'm willing to learn. As long as you're upfront with them and tell them, hey, I'm willing to learn, all I need is a shot, that shows them right there that you're willing to grow.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else have any other question, please? No more questions. All right. Well, Mike, so I really thank you very much for coming back and telling us your story. As you are part of one of the, recent graduated cohorts, this activity actually helped us keep everybody motivated and answered a lot of questions that we may have not only during the job search, but during the cohort time as well, as you could see. So we really appreciate that you had taken the time to come back and share with us this activity. And let's go ahead and keep in touch, and congratulations again on your job opportunity.
Thanks again.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day.